So United 3, Burnley 2. Nick, we're back from the Stretford End. Heartburn still raging. A win's a win, isn't it? At this stage, the only important thing today was winning. But the performance, ups and downs again. Should we start at the start? Because I thought third Premier League game in a row were quite impressive, front foot and dominant.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just about got away with the win, and as you've just alluded to, you can break the game down into that staged approach. So first 10 minutes, more or less a replica of Arsenal and Fulham. Total control, clear that the kind of pre-match meeting, whatever you want to talk about, in that change room before, and there's a lot of motivation to go out and do justice given what we saw Wednesday night versus Grimsby. And they've come out and performed that first 10 or 12 minutes. The ball's moving fast. There's lovely, playing through the phases. The build was slightly better. I thought we saw Casemiro and Bruno dropping a little deeper to take the ball from the back three, and then we've got two different sides approached to two different approaches on the left and to the right. So you've got a lovely approach there on the left side with Mount with rotating with Dallo. And on the right, a bit more direct, where you know that Amado and Bumo are going to take that ball from the wide area and then come inside. And then later on, I'm sure we'll talk about Mbumo's role in staying quite high and trying to isolate those one-on-one switches.
It felt well, to me, it felt like it was quite a direct approach for long periods today.
Yeah, absolutely. So aside from that first 10 minutes where I thought, to be fair, I thought Scott Parker had lined them up, in the classic 4-2-3-1, say, sit fairly deep, let them have it. They're going to come out guns a blazing. And that's what kind of transpired. Again, we keep on mentioning that 10 minutes, same versus Arsenal, same versus Fulham. It's kind of then where Parker's plan seemed to come into play. He's told them to go man for man. You've got Larson going to the right side, Hannibal and Foster pushing central and right, respectively, and then just really trying to, force the play, really, trying to ensure that United are not easily going through the phases. And they just know that the way to cut off United is to stop Euro and Shaw, and then once they get the ball in behind Bruno and Casemiro, and that's where they'll have some space. So yeah, they then had a little period of dominance. That Cullen was getting on the ball, linking play, nice 1-2 touches. But to be fair to United, we got back on it. And then we had to figure them out again. So, like you've alluded to, Steve, a lot more direct, a lot more of Mbuno coming in that right 10 and then going beyond. We saw that a lot today. And then when Euro and De Ligt didn't have the pass on to the midfield, we'd be looking for that. Slightly worried in terms of the personnel. Cunha looking for that long ball instead of a Sesko or, another number 9 like Xerxes. But that's the way we went about it. That's what we needed to do to get the win, and that's how we got the win in the end.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier there's a slightly different approach or very different approach from the left to the right side today. Just tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, it kind of looks at the fact that Mount is starting in that left 10 position rather than a Cunha or a Xerxes. And I also thought it was in reaction to what Burnley did today. So if we take the latter first, you've got Burnley ensuring that they're kind of like 4-3-3 out of possession, ensuring that, like most teams now that come to Old Trafford, ensuring that our wide centre backs aren't used in the build early on. And you had the likes of Larson, Foster, Hannibal, really ensuring that the back three are going man for man. And in particular, they seem to pay attention to Euro. So clearly, it's not a big piece of homework that Euro is our ball carrier who comes out and plays the ball into the midfield, or he sometimes get beyond the wing back or make an interior run. And they seem to do that a lot from around 10 minutes in, where we'd had a good deal of possession. And then they started to ensure that we're not coming out with the ball. So what happened is we just played it down the other side. So De Ligt, over to Shaw, and we seem to have a lot of dominance down our left side, and against Kyle Walker in effect, which
Yeah.
you could argue was a predetermined plan. And
Yeah.
I really liked it. So you've got, instead of Cunha or Xerxes in that left 10, you've got Mount coming in, and he really has played that kind of overload in the central midfield areas really well in recent games. But he comes in, Dallo goes down the outside, and Bumo comes across, and then we're in behind. So that's been a really useful thing to see. And then later on in the half, and before half time anyway, Mount has chose to do another thing. So he'd go wide on the touchline.
Mm.
Shaw will come out. Bruno, of course, being left-sided central midfielder, gets involved early in the build. Ball comes into Mount. That's the trigger for Dallo then to go inside. So I thought that was really interesting today. And if you compare and contrast that to either Acuna playing that position, who comes deep, carries the ball, tries to go 1v1 in the dribble, I thought that was a really nuanced approach by Amorim today. So kudos, where, and credit where credit's due. If you compare it to our right side, you've just got the fact that Mbomo is staying high on that touchline. Yes, he's come back in to receive the ball a lot today, and then he'll either take the ball, give and go, or he'll just spin the defender and try and ask for the long ball from our centre backs. But the right side is just a little bit more, how can I say it, inconsequential in a way that Ahmad and Mbumo are having those same instincts that we talked about in the pre-season review. So when Mbumo's getting the ball on the touchline, Ahmad will work his way to the touchline. And then they'll both realise we need someone inside here. At times, Mbumo will receive inside. Ahmad will then look to support inside and then realise, no, I need to go around and create the overlap. So it's just a little bit disjointed at the moment on the right side. As much as Mbumo has scored his goal, he's had a really good performance overall, there is something there. So maybe next game we might see Dallo back on that side, Dorgu favoured again after being, I think, dropped, if we're being honest, from Wednesday night. So really interesting difference between the left side and right side approach today. And, kudos to Amorim for ensuring that difference, like a lopsided 3-4-3. And at times it worked really beautifully.
Just honing in on the right hand side there, I think it's probably worth saying that there's, one, we're 4 games into the season. So they are still building an understanding, given that it's obviously a new signing. But as well, Ahmad is, a winger by trade, really, or a 10 by trade, and he's learning that new position as well, isn't he? So it's, yes, there's work to be done and there's room for improvement, but personally would see it as positive early signs.
Yeah, positive early signs, and you look at the two quality that both players have, which is
Mm.
undoubted. But lots and lots of work to get that right side more fluid. And we know that, when you look at Dallo's minutes last season, that he does favour a naturally right-footed right wing back. So we keep saying it, don't we? We might see Ahmad a bit further ahead. But if not, there's going to have to be lots of work to be done, because the instincts of Mbumo and Ahmad tend to be the same. So coming in off the touchline inside, and they tend to get in the way a lot. It sounds obvious, but it really is happening. But when that does come off, when there is that lovely interplay, that the quick 1-2 on the edge of the area, we saw that twice today in particular. Then Ahmad is either through and Mbumo's through, breaks that final line, and then there's a cross or a shot on goal. So I'm kind of sitting on the fence on that one. I'm with you that there's positive signs, and we saw it 2 or 3 occasions today. But when they're not careful, they're in each other's way. There's a carelessness at times with the ball, and then we're caught in defensive transition. Then we're caught on a counter from the opposition. So it's just something to keep an eye on. And generally speaking, I thought Ahmad's play today just needed a little bit more attention on the ball. He did that midweek against Grimsby, of course. He started today, so Amrim's not picked out in particular. Um, it's just something for Ahmad to be aware of. I think there's a wonderful player in there somewhere, but like you alluded to, he's not a natural wing back. So credit to the lad, but something to work on, as I'm sure there's lots to be talked about in that dressing room in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
You mentioned Cunha there, obviously disappointing to see him go off. But what I thought was quite striking, I was kind of surrounded by debate in the Stretford End as to which way it was going to go because Ruben had so many options to replace him, didn't he?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's lots of discussion in the stands, and even before the game, I know myself, I love to look at the selections and what kind of dilemmas Ruben has. I did think there was a chance Sesko starts. He's since talked about that cramping up at Grimsby and that not fully going away. So there's kind of a reluctance on Amarim's part, probably rightly so. But also because he does love that, players being 100% match fit and ready for the war, so to speak. So probably no surprise that obviously Mount keeps his place in the Premier League starting 11. Cunha as that false nine and Mbeumo on the right. But what I would say with Xerxes then coming on for the injured Cunha, it does give us a better shape. I love Cunha. I think he's going to really light Old Trafford up, as we've spoken about a couple of times. But I do feel he's better coming deeper from that left pocket or even the right side later on in the season. But when Xerxes comes on, I thought, yeah, if Sesko's not fit to start the game, it's Xerxes. And on he came and he made a difference. And Bruno then goes to left 10 and Bumo stays in the right 10 and there's a bit more fluidity. And although we went a bit more direct today, I did think with Xerxes dropping in and then Mbumo getting beyond, we did look, a lot more easier on the eye. And that's not to say that Mount's role is diminished. I think Mount was fantastic again, but sadly he's obviously got an injury as well. And I don't know about you, Steve. I've not heard anything about that in particular.
Yeah, nothing yet. Time will tell. One of the kind of subplots I thought was a continuation of something we discussed in pre-season was the set pieces. Dangerous, I thought, and also a lot of different varieties of approach. We caused them a lot of issues, didn't we?
Yeah, we're a threat. We're a threat in the air now at long last. I think that was then seen with. I mean, imagine you know yourself, Steve, going to Old Trafford for the last 10 years when we get corners. It's like, yeah, we don't score from corners.
Sit down, first man.
We don't score from long throws. In fact, the talk around us today, I don't know about where you're sat, was oh, Dallow's going for the long throw again. Since when did he have a long throw? But even that, I mean, I have to give kudos to him. He's tried something a bit shorter first, and then the ball's come back out, and he's tried to get Mbumo or later on Bruno on the ball to get a really nice ball in the box. So there is some variation, as you say, and that's really pleasing to see. And at one point, there's a corner comes in from Mbumo. He's standard kind of in swinger. It does go a bit deeper this time towards the back post, and you see Fernandez just giving him a right earful. They've clearly worked on something else, and he's reminding him. And I do like that about Fernandez, the kind of standard setting and reminding even newcomer Brian Mbumo, who's doing relatively well for us, putting in these superb left-footed balls, and he's like, "No, we've worked on that." You could see him methodically talking, and he speaks for about 1 minute. He doesn't just give the quick debrief. He's going over to Mbumo and he's saying, "No, this is how we work it." So, yeah, and we're seeing a lot less of those longer, deeper free kicks. We tend to work them a bit more now, or if it's very deep and narrow, say from the halfway line, we're seeing a lot more thinking about it. So it's going, far side of the penalty area, aiming for a Delit type play or Yoro, and then the ball's coming back across, and then we've got the chance on goal. And of course, we had the opening goal today, which kind of alludes to what we're talking about.
Yeah, obviously you've mentioned Bruno and Mbumo there. For me, probably the two standout players, but I don't know if they caught your eye or if anyone else did.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to pick out a player today. I think it was just that grind, just getting through. Getting all 3 points was absolutely crucial. I heard somebody on the radio afterwards, just 10 minutes ago, talking about, is this Amarim's Mark Robbins moment? And that kind of summarised it for me, that grit. But yeah, I mean, if you were to pick out a player, you'd look at Mbumo. It was much better from Bruno this time, as you've said. And again, partly due to the fact he's gone into that left 10 role for the middle section of the game, and he's just so much more. He's just better there, and he's not. We're not relying on Smith Rowe running off him to score a goal, and we're not looking at various facets of his defensive transition. So yeah, Mainu comes on for Mount. He's then sat next to Casemiro for a portion of the game, and Bruno just tucks in on that kind of left arc and makes it a three-man centre where we needed him. And that's just so much more fluid when that happens. I don't know what you thought about that.
Yeah, it was obviously there was so much said in the week, wasn't there, about it's Bruno or Kobe. So it's just nice to see them kind of coexist, really. And I don't it didn't feel like you could judge it on too much on the tactics. It was more kind of mental resolve today, and like you say, just bite on something and get through it more than anything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And and I think you look at the Kobe discussion, and we obviously talked about it at length last week. Uh, Part of me is, I want to be that kind of screaming fan. He needs to start every game, and then part of me is that kind of rational analyst, if you like, that says, he needs to work his way into the team. He had a big injury last season. He was trialed a bit further up the pitch at 10. And then he's coming slowly in pre-season with a half here and 25 minutes here and there. So it was good to see him half time. I'm not going to lie. And weirdly today, he's kind of done the opposite of what we'd expect. So he's not been as calm and as concise on the ball when he's sat in the double pivot next to either Casemiro or Bruno later on. He's not been progressing the ball in his usual manner. But what he did well today was something that almost every fan and every man and his dog has talked about, which is getting back in, making those recovery tackles, ensuring he's back into that position. And then really putting his foot in and ensuring, stopping the transition from a Burnley point of view, just beyond the halfway line from a Burnley perspective. So that was really pleasing to see from Kobe today. And, I think he will have a part to play this season. But the way Amram thinks is that he's a left-sided central midfielder, so he's partaking not alongside Bruno, but in competition with Bruno. So unless something happens further up in the field, like we saw today with Mount's injury or Cunha's injury, and Bruno has to go back to his normal position, I think Kobe's going to have to bide his time and show performances like today off the ball where he will get the minutes, and whether that's alongside Casemiro, which we rarely see, and that was nice to see. Or alongside Bruno, maybe a bit later on in the season.
But I suppose the major takeaway would have been character. To be because after the week they've had, after the bloody months they've had, to then twice be pegged back, it weighs heavy, doesn't it, in the moment, and then panic sets in. But you get the opportunity, you keep working away, you get the opportunity, penalty spot, and Bruno. I mean, it's a very short, violent, redemptive arc, isn't it? But I mean, people have already kind of forgotten that he's scored two penalties in the week as well. He's. I think it took balls to step up and do that at Grimsby. I mean, that's probably the last time we'll hopefully ever discuss that game. But to then do it again, knowing that the game essentially rests on you and the importance of the game. I mean, the cojones on the man. Come on.
Yes, absolutely. A character's a good one, both like you say, for the team response and in Bruno taking the penalty. I can't comment on whether it is a penalty. There's talk either way on the Ahmad pull, but either way, we were slightly unlucky in the first half, so let's not go there. Penalty is given. Bruno grabs the ball very early on. I like that in him. I like that character. And it's it is one of his beautiful penalties. I always say, if you going low in crucial moments like that, 94th, 95th minute penalty, don't risk anything stupid. So when he goes high, there tends to be more risk with Bruno's penalties. And neatly tucked away. 4 points, 3 games. Yeah, we would have liked a lot more than that, but that's where we are. We've put Grimsby behind us. International break now, and a lot for Ruben to work on the training field. And let's see what comes out of that.